Did anybody watch 60 Minutes last night?
I saw
like we always do as good company men.
The Chiefs Bills game went a little long, and then it was like I wanted to get into the night game with the Cowboys Eagles, so I meant to DVR it, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I want to play this clip here. Deion Sanders had a segment on 60 Minutes. It was very interesting. He said that, I think he said, quote, absolutely not, no interest in ever being a head coach in the NFL. He had a funny comment about how it drives him crazy when a player is not invested in the game that he has loved so much. He said, I would get arrested. He said, what would you get arrested for? He said, for jumping on a player. He said, I'd go into halftime. I'd come back out with half the team because they'd all quit. Deion was very much feeling himself, but he also included this one little note.
When is he not, though, by the way?
It's fair.
Deion was just being himself.
All right, here we go.
What happens when a Power 5 school says, give us a number, we'll make it work?
I'm going to have to entertain it.
You are?
Yes, I'm going to have to entertain it. Straight up. Well, I would be a fool not to.
So, Sanders, there is a huge camp within the Deion Sanders coaching future community who discusses that Deion either should or will stay at Jackson State and that he will continue to build. And in that 60 Minutes profile, there was another quote where Deion said that he hopes some politician or billionaire or figure says, I'm going to bet on Deion. I'm going to come and I'm going to help increase the funding. He said that my assistant coaches right now are extremely underpaid. He kept comparing the budget for Jackson State compared to the budgets of the schools that he's recruiting against. And so even Deion, by his own admission, seems to say that if there's a huge change in the financial situation for him, his coaches, and the program, somebody comes in and invests a bunch in Jackson State, it seems like that would be something that would keep him there. I think Deion Sanders, I would guess, is going to get a look at a Power 5 job this offseason. So if Deion Sanders, by his own admission, is going to entertain it, what do we think? What's our latest check on the Deion to the Power 5 future?
He gone.
Yeah, think so.
I did. So I'm assuming that question probably was, I didn't see it, but I did see a blurb about where he said he'd been called by God, but he had some like catchy, he made it sound more entertaining. But I remember when he was hired at Jackson State, he's like, I am here because I am a man on a mission, and he is religious, and he does. I think he honestly believes that. And I'm sure that question was like, well, then how can you leave? But I just think he wants to win it. I think he's a competitor down deep. I think he wants to see if he can be the best and beat Nick Saban, who he's got all these commercials with. I do believe that, but I also at the same time, I do believe that he wants to help out the HBCUs, and he wants to help out the SWAC, and he wants to help out Jackson State. Like, I believe that too. I think both can be true. I mean, how many times do we fall in love with coaches at a certain school at the Group of Five, and you're like, yeah, of course you got to go. You have to take that job if you want to, you want to compete against the best. So I think he does leave. I mean, he's already interviewed and had really good interviews with Arkansas a couple years ago, with TCU last year, and he's been in the final running for the final 2 or 3 men for the job. Somebody's going to pull the trigger on it this year. It's funny because if you were an athletic director or, some consulting firm, but if you were the school that had to make the hire, like, somebody's got to do it. But I think everybody else is like, man, I want you to see how it goes. Like, I don't know how, it's got to take somebody unique who's going to be willing to say, I believe Deion can do it at this level. And you know what? I think that coach is going to hit it out of the park. I really do. Or that athletic director.
Yeah, I think Deion is going to take a Power 5 job here eventually. And I also think he's going to catch unfairly a whole lot of crap for doing it, because they're going to say, how could you abandon Jackson State? How could you abandon the HBCUs and all that? And it's like, it's not Deion's responsibility to, save a school. Like, there are so many people who, like, Deion's a former athlete who's got plenty of money, who didn't need to do it in the first place. And he's gone and he's taken the Jackson State job. Like you said, Danny, and I believe him too. I think he sincerely wanted to help the program. I think he wanted to bring attention to it. I think he wanted to bring attention to the conference, HBCUs, all of that stuff. He didn't have to do any of it. And he's doing it, and he's putting them on the map. And if he leaves to take a Power 5 job, good for him. If he doesn't, good for him. I don't think anybody should really hold anything against him for doing so. And if a school wants to hire him because they think that he can help them win, good for them. And I think I agree with you, Danny. I think this is the next coaching cycle this winter. Deion's going to get a Power 5 job.
he ain't leaving everybody behind. Let's make that clear. He's going to bring some players with him if he does go. Travis Hunter, Shador. I don't know what Shador's eligibility is for the draft, but he'll probably bring him too. He's got Mike Zimmer as an analyst on the staff who probably is thinking, hey, I'd make a nice defensive coordinator at the next level. Like, he's got a lot. He's going to bring a lot with him. And I'm with you. Like, he's brought more attention to the HBCU, landscape than the last time probably was since Steve McNair. It's been 20 years since we've talked this much about and it's on us, and maybe we can get more exposure, but he's been a huge reason. And you're right. He didn't have to take this job. He probably could have waited out and taken a smaller group of 5 job, but no, he went in this one. It is not easy with the lack of resources. And I mean, he points out and brings a lot of attention on problems that need to be addressed. I think that's been one of the best parts about it.
And he, to answer your thought earlier, what was leading to that question and that quote was the conversation about resources, was the conversation about how much assistants are being paid. And so in the question, it included what happens when a Power 5 job says, give me the number, which we all know for coaching searches in the modern era, how much are you going to give me for my assistant pool is a major factor in a decision of whether or not you are going to leave your current job and go take another. So, the resources, how much you can pay assistants, like those are things that were very much at the forefront of the piece and very much, part of the leading into, okay, so what happens when a Power 5 school says blank check, what's it going to take for you to come? And that's when he said, he would absolutely entertain it. Now, there is a job that because of an Under Armour affiliation, we have consistently mentioned as a potential landing spot for Deion Sanders, and that is for the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, which still at October 17th, 11:22 a.m. Eastern time, is being coached by Brian Harsin. And the roster in place there put up a pretty impressive effort against Ole Miss. I don't know if I ever throughout that game thought that Ole Miss was going to lose, but it was tight enough to at least believe that this is not a team that has quit. And if you were putting Auburn on quit watch, as they are going to be off this week, and that's why we had circled this as a potential time when Auburn might move on from Brian Harsin, it hasn't happened yet. And so I wanted to at least, take the temperature. What's our expectation for how much longer Brian Harsin is the head coach of the Auburn Tigers?
The prevailing theory at this point, because we've expected him to be fired every single week after every loss, and we thought,
it's Mizzou. No, like the Auburn message board says it's Missouri's fault that they're still in this position.
I mean, it was reported by reputable college football, writers that it was going to happen if they lost to Mizzou. Like, it was inevitable. It was inevitable. It was done. What's your prevailing sentiment, Tom, that until the athletic director is installed?
I think, that's what Bud's been saying. It's what a few people have been saying that are much closer to it than I am. I think that that's part of it. They want to have the athletic director involved. And I think another part of it is, like Chip was just talking about, that team still plays for him. That team still likes him. And there is the rule, we have the transfer windows now with college football where players are allowed to enter the portal. But there's the rule. If your coach is fired, every player on the roster has a 30-day window to enter the transfer portal. So there's probably some fear that if they fire him now, the entire team could hit the portal. And then you're kind of left with a JV squad for the rest of the season, including the Iron Bowl at the end of the year. And is that really what you want? Like, are you willing to get trounced by Alabama by 70 points just to get a head start on your coaching search when everybody kind of knows the job's going to be coming open at the end of the year anyway? But of course, you also run the risk of, what if Auburn wins out? What if they keep winning and then they beat Alabama and you can't fire them? So it's Auburn. It's a situation that makes no sense. Something's going to happen. Most people aren't going to end up looking good coming out of it.